Copaiba oil has been getting a lot of attention as a possible substitute for medical marijuana for those folks who need it but can't get it. So we're going to dig into Copaiba and find out how effective it is, how it works, what it's good for. We're looking at the herbal database on Copaiba oil, and on the right you see the information panel, which can be opened or closed. And I'm just going to scroll through a little bit of this, and then we're going to take a look at how it works on the endocannabinoid system. So first of all, it comes from several different species of trees in the Copaiba genus. The compounds in these different trees are not all the same. So for example, in the Copaiba officinalis you see there's 25% of the beta caryophyllene. That's what we're going to be talking about the most. That's really where all the research is centered, because that turns out to be an effective cannabinoid, a dietary cannabinoid. But it also has these other compounds, and if you look down below that, this other species has even more beta caryophyllene, but a different matrix of other components in it. Now, even though we're looking at beta caryophyllene as the major active ingredient in Copaiba, the truth is that natural medicines are always a synergistic blend of many, many, many compounds that work together, and that's why it can be dangerous to just extract one compound thinking that that's going to do the job of the plant. It doesn't work that way. So let's just look at some of the things that Copaiba does. We know that it's good for immune support. The question is, how does it do that? It's support for normal controlled inflammatory response. So even though it's listed as an anti-inflammatory, that's not technically correct, because the way it works isn't to tone down inflammation directly, but it works on the different pathways that produce inflammation. We need inflammation. It's an important part of our immune response, but we just don't want it to get out of control or out of balance. So the way it works is just to keep it balanced, which is rather special. And it reduces excitation in our tissues and in our nerves. Just a comparison, the Copaiba essential oil from doTERRA is a blend of 4 Copaiba species. I like that just because each of these species has its own matrix of compounds that work in slightly different ways, so blending them together is nice. It has about 60% of this beta caryophyllene. Young Livings is said to have 70%. I don't know which trees are in Young Livings. I can't say. Now, in terms of its safety, it's very safe. You can overdo it, like you can overdo anything, and if you really take too much, you're going to wind up with stomach aches. And so anyway, looking here, we see that for pregnant and breastfeeding women, it's safe to inhale and to apply topically. Same for children. Do not use it on your pets. And just a few other things. I'm going to just scroll through this. I'm not going to read it. If you're watching the video, you can pause it and read these directions on how to use it. So for arthritis, if you have an upset stomach, nausea, gas, bloating, use this. For muscles, tendon aches, pains, and inflammation, headaches and migraines. And you'll see there's a link here to a site that has a course on Copaiba essential oil. Now, if you're going to use it internally, these are the instructions. 2 drops in a capsule taken morning and evening. You could blend it with frankincense for increased cellular support. Add 2 drops mixed with citrus in water. Take 1 or 2 drops under the tongue each morning. Blend with peppermint for digestive support at mealtime. Now, ordinarily, I don't recommend taking essential oils internally. However, this one appears to be quite safe. External application, you can use it diluted in a fractionated coconut oil over a damaged area, painful area. Or you could combine it with blue tansy essential oil for skin irritations and blemishes. And then for the skin, you could blend it with a facial moisturizer and cedarwood essential oil, and that helps support the extracellular matrix that's our support system underneath our skin. And then you can use it in aromatherapy and a diffuser. off and on through the day. You don't want to keep those things going. It's recommended with a diffuser. You only keep them on for about 15 minutes, then turn them off and take a break. You could combine it with citrus to elevate the mood. To better understand how Copaiba oil works, it's really useful to know something about the endocannabinoid system, and you'll find information about that in the anatomy and physiology section of the database. So anyway, this is a very extensive system that plays an important role in inflammation and pain, and it works through two different types of receptors that are located in different parts of the body. A cannabinoid is defined as a substance that interacts directly with one of those receptors. There are two different kinds of receptors. There's this one, CB1 and CB2. So let's just open up CB1 for a second, and we find out that, I'll just read this, a major limitation for the therapeutic development of compounds that directly activate these receptors is unwanted psychotropic effects. In other words, these are the receptors that cause people to feel high when they are using different types of marijuana compounds. These CB1 mediated psychotropic actions produce both practical and administrative hurdles that have severely curtailed development of direct acting CB1 agonists. An agonist just means that it is something that triggers that receptor. So the other receptor is the CB2 receptor. Now, both of these have effects on pain and inflammation and other things, and they're located in different parts of the body. These are the ones that have been getting a lot of attention because when those are triggered, you don't get the psychoactive effects. They have therapeutic potential for treating various pathologies while avoiding the adverse psychotropic effects of CB1 receptors. Significant issues in developing agonists for therapy include potential for tolerance. In other words, the need for more drug to achieve the desired effect, or physical dependence. When given in preclinical neuropathic pain models, tolerance develops quickly to the effective doses of any CB1 agents. Similarly, physical dependence can be demonstrated following repeated administration of low doses of a CB1 agonist. So these are still problems with CB1. However, in contrast with CB1-mediated analgesia, tolerance to CB2-mediated analgesia in neuropathic pain models doesn't appear to develop, at least over the course of 7 days of treatment, which is what they did in this one study that you see here. This lack of tolerance to the analgesic effects raises the question of whether the immune modulation by these CB2 agonists will also be persistent, and if so, whether it would be detrimental. Importantly, abrupt antagonism of CB2 receptors after chronic dosing with an effective dose does not appear to elicit signs of physical or autonomic withdrawal. So what that means is that when you're using something that acts on this receptor, you get the analgesic or pain relieving effect without worrying about becoming too tolerant to it and needing a higher dose, or going through withdrawal symptoms when it's taken away. And in fact, in one study with rats, they would only self-administer, they had a choice, and they would only self-administer the CB2 agonists. And they prefer the environment where they receive a CB2 receptor agonist. So that's pretty interesting. So when we deal with medical marijuana, what's being activated are CB1 and CB2. However, with beta caryophyllene, it's only the CB2 receptor. This is the reason that the scientists have sat up and taken notice, because they've been doing all this work to come up with a synthetic cannabinoid that only triggers the CB2 receptor. And it's been really difficult for them to come up with anything that really works without side effects, especially. But we've got something in nature, this beta caryophyllene, and it's in a number of different herbs and essential oils. This number 41 tells us that there are 41 articles and studies and videos in this information panel for copaiba oil. and it's going to take too long to go through all of those with you, so I'm just going to invite you to subscribe to the database and look at them yourselves. They're very convincing. Now, what we'll do instead is just take a look at some of the conditions that are indicated in these studies as being conditions that are treatable using Copaiba oil. So first of all, there's quite a good study on its use topically for acne vulgaris, acne, and an animal study indicating that we should consider Copaiba oil as potentially therapeutic for acute pancreatitis. I think we already went over it being anti-nociceptive. For high blood pressure, dental plaque, and that study was done in dogs, interestingly enough, because we saw that it shouldn't be used on dogs. But they did a study and they found that it eliminated dental plaque in dogs, and so for people it ought to do the same thing. Another study showed that it can be useful in endometriosis. There's something called experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis, and I don't think we really have time to get into that, but Copaiba oil was inhibitive there, and we talked about inflammation already. It can be used in leishmaniasis, several studies on that. Other studies show that it does a good job of healing wounds. Cautions. Here's probably the biggest caution is that several studies showed that there are commercial Copaiba oils that have been adulterated. Major differences were observed in their chemical composition, and some adulterations were pointed out. There are details about this. So to wrap things up, let's compare the beta-caryophyllene, which we have in the Copaiba oil, with other sources of cannabinoids. First of all, folks have heard about CBD oil, cannabidiol, and there really are no cannabinoids in that. And the reason I say that is because there's nothing in there, or if there is, it's very low amounts of any substance that's directly interacting with the CB receptors, either CB1 or CB2. And that's because it's coming from hemp. For CBD oil to be effective, it has to have the addition of THC, and that's illegal in most states. You can get it where medical marijuana has been legalized. Usually you're going to have a doctor's prescription, I think. But that's the CBD oil that works for pain and cancer and all of that. The Rick Simpson type oil that has THC in it. If it doesn't have the THC, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. It may have some indirect health effects. Now the THC interacts with CB1 and CB2, and you get some psychoactive effects there. By itself, it's not very pleasant, so you get it in medical marijuana and the different compounds. It's just the problem is it's illegal in most places. So that leaves us with the beta-caryophyllene, where there's no CB1 interaction. It has the same benefits as other cannabinoids, a direct interaction on CB2, and there are therapeutic amounts of it present in the Copaiba oil. So with that, I hope y'all understand Copaiba a little bit better. There's a lot that we didn't get to. So again, I invite you to the database. The current database doesn't have all of the same information. This is in the new one that I'm currently working on, but it will soon be out and available to anyone who is currently subscribed. So just hold on to your seats, and in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe. I will see you soon. Bye.